Hello to all my dear followers. Welcome to the 5th season of What If Naruto Fell in Love with FEM ITACHI and Awakened the Wood release. As always, if you want more seasons, please continue to support the channel. Enjoy!
The mist. Naruto hated every bit of it. It brought back nothing but bad memories. The loss of vision didn't bother him too much, no. He had ways to see that did not require eyes. But the sickly vapor hugging his skin, climbing up to his arms, violating his nose, all brought up a sick sense of anxiety, a fear that he had not felt for a while. I hope you two are stronger the next time. The weapon clattered under the strength of his grip. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't see. He couldn't smell. Feeling like a guest inside his own body, he was trapped. Naruto raised his hand, bringing it in front of his face. Zero visibility. Great. He didn't turn his head, didn't make a sound, didn't dare to breathe. He shut off his eyes, didn't make any difference anyway. Reaching out for his friend, expanding his senses, found him. He's still here. That's good. Naruto took a few steps in the general direction of Tamura's chakra and shot off his hand, intending to place it on his teammate's back. He felt him straighten for a second in surprise. Page 37 Tactic R. Rabbit. He signed off with his hand. Tamura was gone the next second. Earth style. Encasing walls level 3, the ground reverberated and groaned. 3 thick walls emerged from beneath, true to its name encasing him, and a good deal of area. With some luck and help from his calculations, he had trapped the enemy with him. This should buy him enough time. Now to see if they take the bait. If his hunch was correct, and there was little room to believe otherwise, he was up against shinobi from the mist. The mist was known for their ruthless aggression. Like predatory sharks in the sea, they tore their enemies apart mercilessly, not giving any chance to flee. There was no way he could win here, not while being so heavily outnumbered. But he wasn't trying to win. Awfully stupid, are you? Heh. Wah, his eyes bulged, hearing the gruff voice so close to his ear. A momentary lapse of concentration repaid him with a deadly blow to his abdomen. One that nearly made him fold, poof, or not, tch. A clone. The voice spat the words as if poison. The mist was infamous for its ruthless aggression and short thresholds of patience. If he was right, he had managed to trap the 3 highest chakra levels with him. The other ones had stayed behind, and he could sense them trying to break the walls. They could try their damnedest, but these weren't any typical walls. Just make it easy on you, boy. It was a different voice this time, one much calmer than the first one. We can talk our ways out of this. You won't be seeing tomorrow's sun if this goes any other way. He's baiting me. He can't find me. Oh? Do you wish to leave so soon? Don't tell me you guys are just lost on your ways. Naruto's voice came from everywhere, echoing off the walls. Quit yammering, boy, or I'll have to rip that tongue out. A third voice growled in cold fury, slightly raising the hair on his hands. This one. Yeah, no, I'll be needing it, you see. He couldn't complete, forced to dodge a sword that would have pierced his kidney, pivoting on his heel. The wind rushed by him, the blade cleanly nicking his jacket. That was close. Hey, I just got this one. You can stop your breathing, but you can't stop the thump of your heart. A chuckle followed. He couldn't tell if it was more humorous or condescending. Well, doesn't mean I can't help you with that, now, does it? Aim Yuri. The calm voice spoke chidingly. He was clearly the leader and had the other 2 under control. Konoha Shinobi, he called. Naruto tensed. We'll offer you a deal, the man spoke. His voice was confident, fearless. The boy scoffed. You seem to be trespassing if you didn't know that. Do you really expect me to abide by your rules? Konoha is the governing body here. Konoha has grown weak. It isn't the strongest of the 5 any longer. Not since your 4th Hokage perished. I'd almost think you're trying to hurt me with your little monologue. The man ignored him. We were hoping to reach your border watches by tonight, but you can make things easier for both of us. If there were any doubts about their motives, they were cleared. But the fact that this man was so openly admitting raiding the Konoha outpost, Naruto didn't know what to feel. The outpost had a decent force, consisting of precisely 7 Jonin leaders, each responsible for a team of 2 other Chunin ninja. A specialized jonin oversaw everything else. It was a rather efficient system, all in all, having a headcount of exactly 22 shinobi at any point in time. That strength was nothing to scoff at, but it wasn't something that could hope to survive a surprise attack by 40 or so enemy shinobi, at least 3 of them having chakra stronger than any normal jonin. Why now? The Third War had ended almost a decade ago. Was 10 years of peaceful life the only thing they were getting? The only thing his father and the last generation managed to scrape? Naruto shook his head. Don't tell me you are arrogant enough to believe that. You cannot conquer Konoha by yourselves. The village might undoubtedly be weaker than it was during the last Great War. The world sang tales of his mother's fiery temper and father's strength. Lord Third was still somewhat young. The legendary Sannin were still loyal to the village. But that didn't mean they were incompetent by any means. And the Mist had their fair share of problems too. Not after that civil war of yours. It started as a weak sound before emerging into something entirely unexpected. Laughter. Laughter echoed off the thick stone walls. Mocking. He decided he didn't like it one bit. Whoever told you there was a civil war? Shocked, he could not dodge the next hit. I'm clearly much too old for the job. A weary sigh. It would be best to retire now and pass my mantle on to Natsumi, the only one who is ready to become the Hokage. Hiruzen removed his Hokage cloak, revealing a vacation outfit, and promptly leaped out through the window. All right. About time, old man. A giggle, high-pitched and gleeful. Man, this was easy. Hokage-sama, 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 Hokage-sama. What are our orders? Being the Hokage was so fun. Hey. Let's see. My first order is, every restaurant has to serve ramen on their menu. Yes, excellent decision, Hokage-sama. Finally, something that I can stand by. An elderly man. More bandages than skin. This will surely push the village towards greatness. Ramen for all. He raised his hand in the air. She already had supporters. Awesome. Ramen for all. Ramen for all. The world shook and groaned. You're late. Wake up. The earth split open. Natsumi, volcano erupted. Wake up. Whack up. Yes, it was a regular morning for Uzumaki Natsumi. No. She stood up abruptly on her bed, messing her hair. No. I'm late. Aunt Tsuna. Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Tsunade crossed her arms under her chest. I've been trying since the last half an hour. What do you think? Ack. You probably just woke up yourself. It's my first day of the academy. Don't want to be late on the first day. As if. I didn't. And if you want to get there before the ceremony, you will focus on getting ready. Don't have to tell me twice. The girl hurried off, jumping off her bed and landing in a crouch. She started running, intending to catch up with some breakfast before leaving. Her heart hammered within her chest, a blinding smile on her whiskered face. Anxious, excited. Will she make a lot of friends? Will Hinata-chan be there as well? What kind of teachers will she have? The best, of course. Maybe the old man himself, although she had to stop her chain of thoughts when she realized she wasn't getting anywhere. Her brows furrowed. A thorough inspection and she found out why. Let me go. Tsunade stood behind her, lifting her up with her shirt, her legs still kicking around. What did I tell you? The first thing you do when you wake up is, eat. Make your bed, the woman roared. Make her bed. She didn't have the time for such useless things. She growled, furiously kicking her legs. Let me go, you old hag. She was dropped instantaneously. Hey, it worked. Who knew that would work? She should try this often. Old hag. A terrifying bloodlust swept the house. Thinking back, it was a wrong move. White eyes blinked, concerned. Curious. What happened to your head? Ahaha. I fell down the stairs. Natsumi, you live on the ground floor. Hinata-chan. Hey, look. The ceremony is starting. Natsumi dragged her friend by the hand, unashamedly ignoring the seething glares of hate from the Hyuga family. She didn't know why they were so mad about it. Orange was an awesome color. Sasuke loved tomatoes. It was a well-known fact in his immediate family. He loved onigiri too. Not nearly as amazing as tomatoes, onigiri were great as well. Mom, Sasuke spoke between bites. Makoto hummed sweetly in response. Can we grow some onigiri too? Like we did with tomatoes. His mother laughed. Sasuke smiled too, and his cheeks colored red. He loved making his mother laugh. Sasuke. Makoto struggled to speak between laughter. Oh, Sasuke, you cannot grow onigiri, silly boy. She patted his head, and Sasuke puffed up his cheeks. He wasn't a child anymore. He was going to become a ninja today. Now all he had to do was get his sister to teach him powerful jutsu. His father would praise him again. Like that time when he practiced the fire jutsu by the lake. That's my boy. He could almost imagine. Oh? You seem to be very excited. Makoto raised a brow. A sly smile overcame her features as she leaned in, whispering, It's because of that girl, right? Her smile turned into a teasing grin, and Sasuke's face lost its color. I heard she'll be joining with you. He stood up abruptly, accidentally kicking the table. Makoto seemed startled too. No, not that girl. No, 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 no. Sasuke shook his head rapidly, and his eyes shut tight. His elder sister's friend, that fool Naruto, had once come over for dinner. Mainly because his mother just won't give up and had threatened the blonde into visiting. Sasuke couldn't say he was impressed. He was really not impressed when the older boy had brought his evil sister the next time. She was evil. Evil. He was sure of it. There was no way someone would squash his deer plants unless they were the devil incarnate. Come on, Sasuke, she apologized. It was an accident. It didn't matter if it was an accident or not. Apologies won't bring his plant back. If she would be in his class. Hey, you aren't thinking of backing up on the first day, are you? Sasuke didn't speak for a while as he looked down, staring at his half-eaten breakfast. True, he didn't like her one bit. In fact, he was sure that he would never, ever like her. He would even prefer her idiot brother's company instead. Even if your father agrees to go along with you, he shot off his head to look at his mother's smiling face. This changes things. Sitting a little far away, having his own onigiri, Fugaku stiffened. Sasuke stared expectantly at him for a minute, and Fugaku ignored it as long as he could before he finally sighed. Wash the crumbs off your face first. He almost whooped. Konoha's destruction is inevitable. Aid us to make it easier, and we'll let you join the new age of Kiri. Konoha is just a beginning. Everything else will follow. Oh, are we really doing this? Just let me kill this punk already. Calm down, Zabuza. He bit back a curse, clutching his side where the weapon had cut him. It burned fiercely, as if someone had stabbed him with a red-hot iron rod. A thick, deep red stream of blood trailed down his sides, pooling down on the ground. The boy slightly raised his hand from the wound, looking at the damage. It's going to be a pain. He was naive to believe that he could fool them in their own turf, the mist. He needed to buy more time. This wasn't enough. Another injury, and he might as well forfeit his life. He could stay on the defensive or he could hit them back. Hard. Staying on the defense wasn't looking too good a prospect from where he was standing. The boy tasted blood in his mouth and spat it. There's no way that I'm betraying my people. Ao sighed, almost disappointed. Well, in that case, Naruto grinned. He was just getting started. The air around him shimmered as he molded chakra, flying through hand seals at an impressive speed. Ao stopped talking, or maybe he still was, but his voice was drowned. Water style. Wrath of Whirlpool. A burst of gruff laughter reverberated. Using a water jutsu against a Kiri shinobi? You amuse me. Ao, however, had other thoughts. Zabuza. Amuri. Fall back. Wah! It started as a weak pull in the mist, before it engulfed everything. The pull transformed into a rotating whirlwind of water. Angry. Sharp enough to cleanly bisect the trees of Fire Country, with deadly pressure sufficient to throw away the toughest of animals. The water entity devoured the vapor from the mist, strengthening itself, growing in size and speed until it grew unstable. The earth walls shattered outwards violently. Do you still think conquering Konoha would be so easy, Kiri Shinobi? The tornado calmed down eventually, returning the water to seep deep into the ground. The technique was new, something that he based upon his mother's home. Usually, he'd have to use much of his chakra to extract water from the atmosphere. The hidden mist jutsu made that part laughably easy. But if he thought that that was it, He couldn't have been more wrong. There was an explosion. Violent. Debris flew all around, making him shield his face. A figure emerged from the rubble, leaning on a giant sword. A man wearing black umbu armor, now somewhat damaged, his face hidden behind messy bandages. What made him feel uneasy was the gleam in his eyes, and that aura. From the moment their eyes met, Naruto saw something that made his muscles tense, almost unconsciously. It wasn't an ordinary man. It wasn't someone he could reason with. It wasn't someone capable of mercy. It was a demon. That wasn't half bad, the man said with a crazed grin, sharp teeth visible through his bandages that had come undone. Small cuts and bruised lingered his body, his clothes in disarray, but his posture didn't show any of it. He was a demon. "What's your name, kid?" he asked with the same shaky grin. The boy blinked in confusion. "Uzumaki, Naruto." As if impossibly, the grin grew wider. "Uzumaki? I've only heard of them. I'm Momochi Zabuza, one of the 7. I wield the Kubikirabocho." 7 swordsmen? He couldn't mask his surprise. His only saving grace was that he wasn't facing the entire 7 at once. If the 7 fought together, it was said they could defeat an entire army. Zabuza threw back his head and laughed. Naruto was stunned by the genuine laugh, so much so that he almost didn't dodge the deadly, swift slash to his legs. Almost lightning style. Lightning Fong. The destructive bolt of lightning missed him narrowly, nearly electrocuting him as he jumped in the air. The newcomer grinned toothily, showing her sharp teeth. "Ringo Amuri, one of the 7. I wield the Kiba." She radiated bloodlust just as much as Zabuza, but hers was more of the playful kind, seeking the fun to fight someone strong. "Amuri," Zabuza growled. "We were talking." "Blast off, Zabuza. I'll kill this boy." Zabuza spat. "The only one who gets to kill him is me. TCH. You'll die if you interrupt my thrill." "Stop, you two." A man wearing an eye patch emerged from behind a still-standing wall, slightly bleeding from his forehead. "KH, the one-eye's back. The heck do you want, Ao?" Ao looked up in the sky before he made a hand seal, his patched eye surrounding with suspiciously familiar veins. "Can't you feel it, Amuri?" Zabuza. His voice, once confident, now had a tinge of fear laced with it. A whisper. It was blatantly noticeable. "This chakra, this is different. I can't believe it." But still, one moment he stood alone. The next moment it was green. Green, soothing, powerful chakra surged. It made him feel as if nothing could touch him. Nothing could harm him. He was invincible. An ethereal warrior's upper body surrounded him, something out of this world. 2 gigantic arms extended from the entity, the right arm wielding a drill-like lance coated with flames. "It's sure sway of the body flicker," Ao said, gritting his teeth. "This? Retreat." Zabuza seemed shocked for a moment before his grin returned. "Today's my lucky day." He lifted his sword with laughable ease, resting it on his shoulder, and then he blurred. CRRRK. The blade impacted the chakra warrior, a deafening sound in their clash, but failed to put so much of a crack on it. The giant cleaver blade groaned as Zabuza increased the pressure, gritting his teeth harshly. The demon roared. There was a second war cry as Amuri broke out of her shock, her entire being radiating excitement. She flexed her arms, wielding the twin swords of lightning, surging with destructive electricity. Lightning style. Lightning Fong. CRRKKKKK. The explosive lightning impacted alongside Zabuza's sword, managing to slightly crack the green warrior's torso, almost pushing it back. Amuri laughed in delight, but Zabuza didn't look too happy with the intervention, his eyes bitter. "Fools!" Ao cried out from a distance. He made a hand sign, and the remaining Kiri shinobi appeared beside him, all of them already molding chakra. Water style. Great waterfall. This isn't good. Naruto blurred through his own hand seals, but Shursui didn't look fazed, an unnatural apathetic look in his eyes as he stared at the incoming tsunami. The Uchiha raised a hand. "Leave this to me." But he could only stare in surprise, letting his hands go limp. The chakra entity cried, pulling back its arm. There was only a fraction of a second for the Kiri shinobi to widen their eyes before the giant warrior thrust the lance. Fire! The fire roared as if alive. It devoured the forest around them within a split second. The water was evaporated at once, hissing with hot steam. It grew and grew until it was as tall as the green entity, and Naruto shielded his face out of instinct, but it wasn't necessary. He couldn't even feel the heat from inside the chakra construct. This wasn't something he could ever hope to match. Another swing of the lance and the flames died out instantly. Vanished, as if the forest wasn't on fire a second ago. Empty. They got away, Shursui spoke finally. The warrior disappeared, and Naruto instantly missed the warmth. What was that? The Uchiha blinked, and then almost as if a switch was flipped, he grinned. Nothing. You didn't see anything. Bullshit. Naruto dodged Shursui's hand, inching close to his hair. It didn't matter anyway, as the older boy managed to put an arm around his neck, then ruffled his hair with the other. That's all you're getting. He laughed merrily as if he had not just murdered dozens of shinobi. Naruto pushed himself away from the older boy, and his eyes widened. Your eyes? They're bleeding. It's nothing. Let's go home. But we need to dress your wound first. You can debrief me on our way back. We're going back to Konoha? You got it approved. Of course. Shursui puffed up his chest. I'm pretty respected around here. You changed the topic. What happened to your eyes? And what was that thing from before? His usual grin slipped, and he struggled with a shaky smile but finally seemed to give up and frowned. Shursui looked up in the orange evening sky. The sun would set in a few minutes. He did not speak for a while, just stood there with a melancholy air around him. His eyes continued to bleed endlessly. The dark red blood flowed down his cheeks as if tears of sorrow. It looked painful to Naruto, uncomfortable. His voice was surprisingly quiet when he spoke. It was one of my two most powerful jutsu, the Susanoo. Only an Uchiha who has awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan can use it. Mangekyo? I thought the third Tomo was the highest. Yeah, it usually is. He waved his hand dismissively. Although it's not without its own side effects. Naruto felt a pit in his stomach. He asked cautiously, what effects? Nothing too extreme. Shursui waved his hands again, prompting Naruto to exhale in relief. Good. He thought it'd be something bad. Just takes away my sight and destroys my body. Nothing too extreme. YT. Why would you even use it if it hurts you so much? He cried out immediately, the words almost stumbling on his tongue. The usual grin returned to his face, and he laughed, ruffling Naruto's hair yet again. This time the boy didn't lean away. I don't have any siblings, but my sight and this body is a small price to pay if it keeps you and Izumi safe. And besides, I know you'll do the same for me. The blonde turned away from the older boy as he crossed his hands, and Shursui blinked. Oi, you aren't crying, are you? I'm not, choked out Naruto, turning his face away. Shursui smiled broadly, patting his shoulder. Come on, let's go home. He nodded, wiping his eyes with his sleeves. I know you begged them to let us go home. Shursui gasped, appalled beyond belief. I didn't. Come on. Do you really think so low of me? I just asked them nicely. Figures. Naruto shook his head. Where's Tamura? Anyway? I assumed he'd come along with you. I sent him to get you. Shursui stopped abruptly, his face dawning with realization. He scratched his head, laughing somewhat uneasily. Tamura. All right. I forgot to bring him along. I admit, I kind of just rushed here when I heard about the situation. Naruto palmed his face. The first day of Ninja Academy was always an exciting one, be it a new student or a returning one. Being the Hokage, the responsibility of ensuring a safe environment for the young and eager fell upon his shoulders. He was the pillar, the support, the shield. Being the Hokage, all of its citizens were his children, and they looked up to him for guidance when the lights got dim. The academy instructors were handpicked by him and his team of advisors, always have been, and such decisions rarely brought up much of a debate. Indeed, even today, as a new year begins, he had appointed a new batch of teachers. But he knew not everyone would agree so wholeheartedly with his decisions. One of those included the man standing in front of him. Team Row dismiss, the most elite of his shinobi. Yes, sir. There was one that did not vanish like the rest, leaving swirling leaves in his wake. The only one who stood even after the others left. The only one who waited silently, a question undoubtedly brewing up in his young mind. You are off duty, Kakashi. The mask isn't necessary. Hound did not move, but Hiruzen knew he was listening. The young man was alert, his chakra in a scattered mess, dozens of emotions waiting to burst, but none of them showed when he spoke. He was incredibly frustrated, the Hokage was sure, but managed to sum up his thoughts in a single word. Why? Are you questioning my judgment? No, but I'm slightly curious. More than slightly, I'd presume. There wasn't a response. Hound did not remove his mask. Neither did he take a step. He just stood and stared. Give him a chance. Childhood trauma brings out the worst of us all, after all. I thought you would be slightly more empathetic than this. There was still no response, but the aura in the room had shifted all of a sudden. It was like a fresh breath of air. The tightness was gone, if only marginally. I understand that you mean well, Kakashi, and I'm grateful for it. But give him another chance, and you may find out he's not as bad as you thought. The young man's shoulders almost slumped, and Hiruzen knew that he just needed another small push. And what if he's just as bad as I thought? What happens then? We know what he had tried. Hiruzen's hand twitched, inching for his pipe, but he stopped. He interlocked his fingers in front of his mouth, his eyes closed. His voice was unforgiving when he spoke. Cold. Then do what you must. When he looked up again, the only thing left was a green leaf descending down peacefully. The ringing bells marked the end of the day, immediately followed by a large number of children clustering the gates. One could compare them to a swarm of bees. There were smiles. There was laughter. New bonds were forged for some, while some spent their day alone, away from the others. The parents greeted their children with smiles. Some fathers carried their children on their shoulders, making them whoop in joy. A black-haired boy stormed past the gates. An uncomfortable expression etched on his face. Her eyes lit up, noticing a familiar face. Hinata had left earlier along with a guard, and she had been waiting since. Shizen might come for her, the elder girl being somewhat of a regular visitor at her home. Her first shift at the local hospital ends by noon, so it wasn't a far-fetched theory that she might come to get her, the time being well past noon. A slight snicker escaped her when the boy stumbled, a trio of girls trying and failing to be discreet while following him. All of a sudden, he smiled and waved at someone. "Nei-san, you're back!" she heard him shout. If he was jogging earlier, he was now sprinting across the ground, his pursuers a lost thought. It didn't take long for him to run over to his sister, where he proceeded to talk animatedly, making silly gestures and telling what they'd learned today. The older girl gave him a gentle smile, poking his forehead. It wasn't long when they walked past her, hand in hand, without so much of a glance in her direction. She could tell both of them were very happy. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if her brother would do the same with her. Would they walk hand in hand too? She'd talk and tell him about her day. For a moment, she imagined what it would be like. But then, he hadn't come back in a year. Their only form of communication being letters that she had studied meticulously to write. Those magnificent 2-paged letters that she sent him. They were always replied, promises were made, more were broken. But he never came back. Slowly, the swarm reduced to a small trickle of pupils, lazily walking out of the gates. Most of them were the older students, ones who were familiar with the system. The crowd of parents, too, was reduced to a fraction. It is mesmerizing, isn't it, she said distractedly, sitting on the swing. Her lips twitched into a small smile, watching a mother pinch her son's cheek. Did you know that less than a third of them shall graduate? A rather minuscule amount, if I may say. Her eyes drooped low, watching a pink-haired man pat her daughter's head. They never looked in her direction, and she doubted they will. Perhaps it was nice in a sense. She could admire them all that she wanted from afar and never get caught. Each year, approximately a fourth of the academy students give up before finishing their first year. Do you know why? The girl shook her head but did not turn to look at the speaker. The voice was old. She thought subconsciously, an old man. Being subjected to a disturbing variety of emotions all her life, she had developed a kind of sense, knowing what the other person was feeling based on their tone. The old man's voice was soothing but not caring. There wasn't a shred of hate in his voice, nor was there any love. It was unremarkably neutral. It is because they lack conviction. They come under false understandings of what becoming a shinobi entails. Riches and fame. They have no connection with being a shinobi. "Hey, Gramps, that's fine and all," she said, turning her head slightly to look at the odd fellow. "But why are you talking to me?" The odd fellow was not bothered by the confrontational remark, or even if he was, he did an excellent job of not showing it. "I see great potential within you, child. It would be a shame if it were to go to waste." He shook his head. "That's not what I meant." She dropped off the swing, slightly dusting her clothes, her favorite orange jacket and shorts. The girl could feel eyes on her back. "I've been told not to talk to odd-looking geezers covered in bandages, and kick them in the balls if they try to touch me." The odd-looking geezer covered in bandages frowned, looking at her with a narrowed eye for what looked like an eternity before he opened his mouth. All the while, she started to walk away from him. Such vulgarities. Is this what Tsunade has been teaching you? I shouldn't have expected anything else. Yeah, well, it is what it is. And then she walked away. Natsumi roamed around the village the entire evening, observing weird insects, hanging out at the ramen stall, talking to Ayam for hours, before she finally decided to get back home. Shizen hadn't made an appearance yet, so she assumed that the older girl was still at work. It was almost midnight by the time her house entered her line of sight. Coming back to an empty house wasn't the best of feelings, but she had gotten accustomed to it for a while now. What with Tsunade's late-night shifts at the hospital? "I will be late. Dinner is in the fridge. Your pretty aunt." At least she wrote a new message every time. Taking off the note, she opened the fridge, and her eyes immediately narrowed dangerously. This could not be happening. She had been saving the special ramen noodles cup for a special occasion, like when she becomes the Hokage. It was a pretty big cup as well, easily the size of 4 standard cups. It was open and very empty. The thief would be paying very dearly, preferably with some items of equal or more worth. But then she discarded the notion. There wasn't anything that she could think of being more special than the special ramen. But the culprit must be brought to justice. This was no minor inconvenience. Her nose twitched. Once, twice. The smell of ramen was still in the air, the intoxicating smell that made her mouth water. She had to suck in the drool. And with that, the little detective began her investigation, armed with a frying pan. Following the lingering scent was no trouble. She had perfected the art of sniffing ramen and reviewing it even before taking in a bite. This was child's play. The irony of actually being a child was lost on her. She followed the scent expertly, her heartbeat building with every step she took. The smell led her outside her room. The door closed. This was concerning. The thief was in her room. She was sure of it. Little fingers wrapped around the doorknob, and the door opened without a creak. Natsumi hadn't even seen the bundle on her bed before she began her most terrible and wicked onslaught. Large but quick overhead strikes with the pan, relentless and unforgiving. "Take this, you thief," she declared, pummeling the bundle for a good few minutes. Satisfied that whoever was under the blanket had taken enough punishment, she stopped, huffing and taking deep breaths. But she still didn't know who it was. It wasn't even a second later that she had snatched the blanket, and something made her stop in her tracks. "This is my brother's blanket." Her temper boiled. The nerve of this, the sound of laughter interrupted her vile thoughts. But Natsumi froze entirely, the voice being incredibly familiar to her. "Sorry, I was starving. It looked delicious, and I couldn't resist." "You!" She tried to form words, but all that came out was a choked noise. But then she heard what he'd said, and her anger returned. She made to attack her brother, but she didn't remember when the pan had slipped from her grasp. Nor did she remember when her eyes had started to sting, her cheeks wet. All she remembered was running straight into his arms. All she remembered was whispering, "You're back." When Uchiha Shursui entered the gates of Konoha, he had hoped to catch on a relaxing hot bath, then have a good night's sleep. Sleep was scarce at work, and he was made to get up at conflicting times. 5 hours of sleep was generally considered a luxury. He had hoped to cook something simple yet delicious for dinner. Something that would be easy to make but would hit that certain spot. When Shursui had entered the gates of Konoha, all he wanted to do was finally rest. Using the Mangekyo had been a risky move, but it had paid off. He could not have hoped to extract his subordinate under such overwhelming odds, using the typical tactics. But if what he had heard from Naruto was any true, he might have to use the cursed eye again. If there really was a war brewing on the horizon, he could not take risks now that he had people to protect yet again. People precious to him. But reality would not be so, Shursui realized. When he noticed a figure standing by his door, he did not question how the person may have known the exact timing of his arrival. One does not question how Uchiha Fugaku knew his stuff. Red met red, 3 tomo swirling, and the next words firmly established his belief. We have a problem. There would be no rest tonight. Breathe in, breathe out. Tackling aggression went hand in hand with rational decision-making. It was one of the basic teachings that Fugaku received from his father, someone he had respected greatly. Perhaps more than anyone else. It didn't make it any easier to do so. Breathe in, breathe out. Do we know who did this? Any suspects at all? We can't say as of right now, Fugaku-sama. I thought it would be better to let you know before taking any action, since the matter falls within the jurisdiction of the police force. Empty sockets stared back at him. Lifeless, lightless. The woman had been found floating in the Naka River. Some of the children playing near the stream had noticed her first, informing their parents, who had in turn called the police. She didn't move nor twitch. Her chest didn't heave. Her hair was long and black, now dull and greasy, sticking to her face, which was bloated and blue. Fugaku wasn't a stranger to corpses. It was a regular occurrence in his line of work. But watching her open mouth and pale skin, the frightened expression etched on her face, he felt something strange, a feeling he hasn't been familiar with in a while. He could not describe it. Was it because she was an Uchiha? Family? I recognize her. Give me everything we have on Uchiha now. For the next 3 days, Fugaku would spend his evenings looking at the files, monitoring Nao's last actions. He would continue to run the gears within his mind, isolating himself from his wife and son. For the next 3 days, Fugaku would continue to rack his brain, searching for the answers. Why did the sweet little Nao that he knew once, the overly polite girl, die such a gruesome death? On the 3rd day, another corpse will show up. This time it would be a middle-aged man. His widow would weep when they give her the news. His teenage son would hold back, keeping a facade of bravery, but he too will cry once he's alone, and Fugaku will be helpless. More bodies will show up. Nothing will make sense. There won't be a thing he will be able to connect the victims with. The bodies would continue piling up. 1, 2, 4, 6. Each with the same empty sockets. It wouldn't be hard to assume why their eyes were gouged out. All of them were adults, shinobi, and each one of them had unlocked the Sharingan. The matter would be taken to the elders, watching the severity of the situation. But most curiously, nothing will come out of it. The elders will be tight-lipped. The Uchiha Council will be drowned in a heated debate for days on. Accusations will fly. Some will target the other clans of Konoha. Their rivalry with the Hyuga will be spotlighted, forming incredulous statements of how the Hyuga were behind the killings because they were afraid of the Uchiha and wanted to keep riding on their increasing fame and power. The time will come when Fugaku will have had enough and swallow his pride. At first, he will debate acquiring his daughter's help, utilizing the Umbu resources. But then he'll discard the notion. As much as Izumi was his daughter, an Uchiha, she was a shinobi working directly under the Hokage, an outsider in terms of the clan. It would be best if the matter stayed within the Uchiha clan. If word gets out that the members of his clan were being hunted, one of 2 things were bound to happen. The other clans might sympathize with them, offer their aid. Relations might improve, or they might see it as an opportunity to oppress them further. The Uchiha clan had a history rich with great fame and fortune. They had much to give. They were still arguably the most prestigious clan in the village, the only founding clan left after the steady decline of Senju. He didn't trust Sarutobi anymore. He loathed Shimura. Fugaku wasn't ready to gamble, and he'd die before he bows his head. And so, he went after the only other person he could trust, the strongest Uchiha of the young generation. Someone he could blindly put his faith into. We have a problem. Shursui followed him without question. It was a strange experience, being back at the Ninja Academy after so long. Ages must have passed since the last time he was here, but it had only been a few years. 6? 5? It didn't matter. Naruto stepped into the training grounds, making his way through the academy gates. The trees leaned towards him as if welcoming an old friend, and the wind picked up its pace, ruffling his golden mane of hair. He didn't see any of the students practicing on the grounds, which led him to a startling realization. I'm a bit early, aren't I? There went his plan. He had been hoping to walk his sister home since he couldn't wake up early in the morning. Surprisingly, his wounds had not been so trivial, and the cut had bothered him at night. A late-night trip to the hospital was not fun, but he hadn't been sleeping well lately, anyway. Briefly, he considered asking for help. Instantly, the idea was discarded. Not sleeping well was better than getting his mind probed by a stranger. By a good margin. Any day of the week. So it was with a steady determination, Uzumaki Naruto decided to wait until noon, taking his old seat by the foot of a sakura tree. He wasn't bothered, though. Patience was a virtue that he had in spades. He reached into his pocket and fished out his flute. The instrument didn't look a day old, but he knew it was older than himself. His lips found the ending and gently he blew. The song was quiet, yet it seemed as if the entire village could listen. It was delicate, yet seemed to carry an impossible power. He closed his eyes and thought of a dream that wasn't real but he hoped it could be. A man and a woman bright and warm, a child so golden lay playing in their arms. By the time he opened his eyes, the sun had made its trek to the top. Naruto stood up and dusted his trousers, more out of habit than anything. He hadn't been hoping to rest for so long, but it wasn't like he had much to do, although, "Oi! Wake up!" He kicked the tree lightly. It might have been a foolish move for anyone watching him, but he had sensed her a while ago. Izumi jumped down from the branch, dusting her shorts. Her face was impassive, but her cheeks were dusted pink. It was so satisfying to catch the Uchiha off guard that he couldn't help. "I wasn't sleeping." She didn't shout, but her lips were pressed tightly when she saw him smiling. "Yeah," he said, stretching his arms. "And you weren't spying on me either." Izumi didn't so much as twitched as she stood up from a crouch. "I came here for Sasuke." Of course, she had been sleeping on the tree for the last 2 hours. He could sense that chakra anywhere after all, but he didn't say it out loud. Uchiha pride was a real thing, as he had found out a while ago. He recognized another chakra present, but the person was incredibly talented at suppressing it. And they were doing a phenomenal job, for he almost didn't notice it. It was as if watching a glass submerged in water. "What are you doing here, anyway?" He laughed, rubbing the back of his head. "I came here for Natsumi, but I messed up the timings. So, I've just been sitting here." He gave her a look. As you would have noticed, her lips formed something that resembled a pout. "Was that a pout?" "I wasn't spying on you." Naruto decided that it was. It was then that he had an excellent idea. He perked up suddenly, looking at the academy building. The bells should be ringing any time now, so he had to be quick. He picked up his flute, storing it in his pocket, and started to walk towards the building. "Where are you going?" "Why, to spy, of course." "I wasn't spying. I told you." "Geez, it's okay. I meant spying on the children." "Wait, that didn't sound so bad in his head. Then why?" No, wait." He faced Izumi, his hands raised in defense. "I didn't mean it like that." "Disgusting." He blanched. The look she gave him was full of hostility and disgust, and he couldn't help but take a step back. He didn't mean it like that. He just wanted to check if Natsumi paid attention in class. He waited for the pain, but creaked open his eye to see that Izumi was walking towards the building. Her long, black hair tied in a ponytail swung with every step, and her pace quickened. "Let's make this quick." He blinked but followed his friend, nonetheless. Why are you so eager all of a sudden? Izumi didn't slow down or stop as she spoke. Isn't it obvious? To make sure that you do not make a fool out of yourself, of course. Her tone said that he was an idiot to ask that question. It didn't take him too long to figure out the real reason. That brat Sasuke was in the same batch, if he remembered. He used to be a rude kid back when Naruto had last met him. So he wasn't overly fond of him. The two of them climbed up to a tree, sitting on a branch as they peeped on the students. It didn't take them long to find their siblings. The dark-haired boy sat closest to the windows, so he was pretty easy to notice. He had a bored look on his face, resting his cheek on his palm as he looked out through the window. He didn't look thrilled to be in the class. Sasuke, muttered Izumi. She had a smile on her face as she watched her brother. He isn't exactly working hard, you know? At least he's awake. What did that mean? And why was she smirking? Was she teasing him? Naruto never slept in classes, he remembered. He might have been extremely bored in some of them, but he never slept during a lecture, even if his clone attended the later part of them. So, if it wasn't him, his eyes widened, and he frantically searched for the flash of red. Natsumi. No. He saw his dear little sister on the last bench, blowing an impressive bubble from her nose as she dozed off without any care. I might have to teach her a few things, he muttered lowly, like how she shouldn't sleep during the lectures. It was unacceptable, says the person who attended less than half of them. Hey, I was training. It was at least a better use of time. If you say so. He grumbled something underneath his breath but let it go. It wasn't like the lectures helped that much. Sasuke told me they have a new teacher, apparently. He perked up. His eyes left the sleeping form of his sister right as her bubble burst, and he scanned for this new teacher. Whatever happened to the old academy teacher? Naruto tried his best but couldn't remember the name anymore. His violet eyes finally found the new teacher, and everything seemed to stop. His gaze was locked, and his vision narrow. The bark that they were crouched upon cracked under the strength of his grip. He didn't need to think before he acted, and the bark broke as he propelled himself forward. Naruto didn't pay heed to Izumi's surprised call as he dashed in through the window, breaking it. The academy was going to need a new teacher. The floor cracked as his chakra ran wild. The boy ignored the chaos in the class, leveling his glare on the man with the scarred nose. Yumino-san. His voice was pleasant, utterly betraying the presence of his chakra. He might have been talking to an old friend for anyone hearing him. He took a step forward, and the soon-to-be corpse took one back. I believe I told you to stay away from my sister, because there was no way he was leaving this one alive. Itachi Kakashi wasn't a good man. He wasn't one to go out of his way to help random people or carry grandmas on his back. He didn't have a lot of people he cared about. Oh, he had a lot of acquaintances in his line of work. But they were just that, an acquaintance. If it were a mission, he'd gladly put his life on the line for any comrade. For his own wasn't worth much. But he'd go against the world if it meant protecting the ones he cared about. Because there weren't many left. So, he was understandably enraged when he'd heard about the Hokage's decision to let one Yumino Irika be an academy teacher. Kakashi would be the first to admit that the man was unhinged, even more so than himself. But the Hokage wanted therapy by confrontation, making Irika understand that his sensei's daughter was just a little girl and as much a victim as himself. Since his leader had brought the topic of trauma, Kakashi had relented and decided to give Yumino a chance to redeem himself. The old Hokage had much faith in believing that Yumino was a gentle person at heart. Loath as he was to admit it, he was just waiting for the man to make a mistake so he could just dispose of him and be done with it. It was something he excelled at, after all. But he was shocked, because the man, Irika, had apologized to his sensei's daughter. Bowed his head even. It was a powerful gesture, and Kakashi was suddenly willing to put a little more of his faith in the man. The academy bells had almost rung, and Kakashi was strangely unhappy that he didn't get to kill something that started with I and ended with A. So, when one Uzumaki Naruto had barged up into the classroom with all the tact that his mother had possessed, Kakashi, with a heavy heart, decided to save the vile man that was Yumino Irika. Stay away from my sister. Kakashi appeared behind the boy, inwardly impressed at the pressure. The air was thick, and his enhanced nose could smell the green aura. Incredibly potent. The boy had grown much stronger from the time he'd attended the Chunin exams. But as much as he enjoyed watching the scarred man squirm, he had to stop things before Naruto dug himself into a hole. Let's talk on the terrace like gentlemen. Kakashi didn't give the two of them any chance to speak before he flickered to the terrace, carrying Yumino under his arm. Naruto hadn't looked surprised by his arrival, so he must have been aware of his presence from the start. He didn't know how to feel about that. A flicker of orange came in instantly after him, and he raised his hand in greeting, a smile under his masked face. Yo, you look well, Naruto. Naruto didn't seem to catch on, however. His eyes were fixed on the panting man who was yet to say a word. The boy took out his tanto. Good thinking, Kakashi-san. I can dispose of him here without traumatizing the children. Now, Kakashi had to play the bad guy. You can't. The boy rounded upon him, looking at him as if Kakashi had betrayed him in some way. Kakashi just smiled. What do you mean I can't? He shouted. He shouldn't even be out here. I thought you said he'd be in prison for the rest of his life. I thought so too. And? Why is he free? If the academy isn't somehow supposed to be his prison. I'm ashamed. Naruto's eyes widened, and he took a step back. Irika was on his knees, his head touching the floor. His shoulders trembled, and the man raised his voice again. I'm ashamed of what I did. Will always be as long as I live. I was so blinded by my hatred that I couldn't see correctly. In my grief, I blamed the death of my parents on an innocent child. The man took a breath and gulped. And would have killed her if not for you. The tanto trembled in Naruto's grip, and Kakashi tensed, ready to act if the boy decided to kill the man after all. His chakra was less aggressive now, and he seemed to consciously restrict it. Irika was almost crying, and even Kakashi felt a tiny twinge of sympathy. He was suddenly less unhappy about not killing the man. I will always be in your debt for stopping me from becoming a monster. But I want to live each day of my life repenting for my sin. Instead of wasting my life, I want to devote it for the sake of the children. So, please, the man looked up, his tearful red eyes filled with a strange determination. Please let me repent. Whatever he was expecting to come out of today, Kakashi didn't expect this. Naruto didn't move for a while, but his breathing was stable, and the green aura was nowhere in sight. He slid the tanto blade into its holster and turned away, walking over to the edge of the terrace. So much for not making a fool out of myself, he muttered, but Kakashi heard it all right. He looked back before he jumped. If you even look at her wrongly, I will not hesitate to end you, even if you grovel for mercy. Kakashi gave him a cheerful thumbs up as he jumped away. Irika stood up, suddenly looking very out of place. He awkwardly smiled at Kakashi, who didn't smile back, just 'cause it was fun. Irika tried to walk past him, and Kakashi made sure to block the stairway just 'cause it was fun. Hatake Kakashi wasn't a good man. Damn it. Now he felt like the bad guy. That new teacher sure had a way with words. He must have prepared the speech before coming here, he muttered. Naruto walked through the academy grounds with hands in his pocket, now aware of the countless eyes that followed him. They were all looking at him as if he was a demon from their storybooks out to eat them. Aniki! Wait! He stopped, turning back to look at his sister. She had a big smile on her face as she ran towards him. Naruto stumbled a bit when she jumped on his back, still grinning. Hey, I'm so happy that you came. I wanted to wake you up in the morning, but you didn't look so well. She was still grinning, and a smile made its way to his face. I was just passing by. Natsumi stuck her tongue out at him, and he laughed. It seemed like she had slept through all of that mess, which worked well for him. He was going to talk to her about it, though. Aniki! Look there. Naruto blinked. His eyes followed the way her finger was pointing, and he saw that Sasuke was also on his sister's back. The Uchiha was smirking at them in a very challenging manner. Oh? Whatever did the poor man do attract your ire? Asked Izumi once he walked towards them. She tried to mask the concern in her tone, but Naruto had known her for too long to be fooled. Sasuke pretended and failed to act uninterested, but Natsumi just blinked. She must be confused. I'll tell you later. Izumi looked at him for a moment and shrugged. I'll see you losers on the other side then. Sasuke stuck out his tongue at them. Her lips twitched, and then she was gone. Aniki, we can't lose, as if, he scoffed. Of course we can't. He tightened his grip on her legs, a grin making its way to his face. Hold tight. A flicker of orange was the only thing he left behind. I don't feel so good. Natsumi stumbled over to the bed, laying down face first. She groaned again and covered her head with a pillow. He knew a shunshin was disorienting for those inexperienced, but he didn't think that it could be this bad. They had won the race by a hair's breadth, surprising him as he hadn't imagined Izumi to be this fast. She used to be slower than him during the Chunin exams, and they hadn't really sparred against each other since then. But apparently, she hadn't been slacking off at all. Naruto was kept on his toes all the time. However, as soon as they stopped, the two academy children had thrown up instantly. Even the mighty brat Uchiha Sasuke wasn't an exception. The duo had made their way to their home shortly after, with him only exchanging a nod of parting with his friend, and Natsumi had wobbled to her room as soon as they walked in. Am I dying? I don't want to die, idiot. You aren't dying. He pinched the bridge of his nose. I suppose it was my fault to think you could endure it. She stood up suddenly, a spark in her blue eyes, and she pointed her finger at him. Don't underestimate me, Aniki. The future Hokage doesn't. Naruto ignored the rest of her speech, and his mind wandered to other thoughts. He couldn't understand why the Hokage would let a madman like Irika out of prison and then place him at a place filled with toddlers. But then, he wouldn't say he knew everything. Maybe the Hokage knew something that he didn't, and he would reluctantly admit that the scarred-faced man didn't have any bad intentions in his eyes. The man was genuine about wanting to repent. But what had changed his mind? Were people supposed to change like this? Could they even change? His answer would have been a firm no a few days ago. A man doesn't just change just like that. His ideals do not twist and turn overnight. It was a thorough process that took years to cultivate a mindset, but was it so easy to break one? And then I'll say no. If you don't like ramen, oi Natsu, he interrupted her, instantly making the girl sit down on her bed. She rested her palms on her knees and looked at him in the eyes with an unnatural intensity. Yes, Aniki. He gave a look that made her grin, but he shook his head. Say, what do you think of the academy teacher? She perked up. So, that meant Irika wasn't a bad guy in her books anymore. How interesting. Who? He took that back. She likely even forgot that Irika was the one who tried to kill her. Could someone as airhead as her? Hey, I know that look. You just doubted my chances of becoming Hokage. My own blood. Such betrayal. Where did she even learn this stuff? Natsumi was panting, taking deep breaths as she punched his chest. She was small and had to stand on the bed to match his height, but it didn't really hurt. The girl calmed down, and her lips formed a frown. The girl continued in a much smaller voice. At first, I was afraid of him, that he was there to. Her voice cracked, and he had to loosen his grip on the bed consciously. The girl shook her head. But then he apologized. I know it doesn't mean much to you, but he really looked like he meant it, and I tried to forgive him. Irika-sensei is really nice now, and he doesn't even kick me out like the other teachers. Also, he even treated me to ramen. So, I guess he's okay. Could he really have changed? Was it possible, after all? He'd believe his sister, if only because she was a better judge of character than he was. He looked at his clenched fist, the sickly black nerves visible through the skin of his wrist. Naruto shoved down his sleeve immediately and gritted his teeth. He looked up to see if she had noticed anything and exhaled when he noticed her looking away. They kick you out. Why? Oh, that hee. It is because you sleep all day, isn't it? How did you know? No. I never sleep in the class. He looked at her red face and smiled before it turned into a gentle laugh. The red-haired girl just looked at him strangely before she joined in with him, awkwardly at first. Naruto sat down on the bed, leaning back on his hands, and turned his face to look at her. Let's train tomorrow. Just you and me, he said, finally laying down on the bed. I'll show you some cool stuff. He didn't have time to brace before a small body rammed into him, a cry of joy echoing in the house. The morning air never failed to put his nerves at ease. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the cool air, and exhaled. He didn't move from his meditative stance, searching deep within his soul for that which lay hidden. There was nothing that could bother him in this state, nothing that could ruin it. Arg! I've been playing with leaves for the last 5 minutes. Nothing could. You said you were gonna show me something cool. Hey, are you listening? You can hear me, right? Nothing. Aniki, what? He should have known it was a bad idea from the start. This girl couldn't sit still for the life of her, but it was something that must be done. The leaf. What do I do with this? He creaked open his eye to see what she was fussing about, and he raised his brow. The green leaf that he'd given her now had a large hole in it. You aren't supposed to push so much chakra at once. Start slowly. But his dear little sister just looked at him as if he was a wise old man so above her state. She tilted her head and scrunched her face, closing her eyes. What's a chat aura got to do with this? Brown tiger. What the hell was she doing in the class? The answer came to him not a moment later, and he took a deep breath. He stood up from his stance and walked over to her. The two of them were using an abandoned training ground, and he had hoped to see what she could do. It wasn't much. Her chakra control was non-existent. But then did she even need it? Naruto had some of the largest chakra reserves in the village at the moment, even more so than the Hokage, whose reserves had diminished with old age. But Natsumi had enough chakra to dwarf the old leader and him, combined. And none of it was the Kyuubi. Of course, her abnormal reserves were a given, considering Uzumaki were famous for their dense chakra, along with an unrivaled talent in sealing. Naruto wasn't very good at seals himself, and even though Danzo had been supplying him with fuinjutsu materials to study, he just hadn't had the time to work on something so time-consuming while he was out on the field. Although, it would be wrong to say that he was a complete novice. Jiraiya had told him about the fuinjutsu used to seal the Kyuubi, the 8 trigram seal. 2 layers of 4 symbol seals were used in such a way that prevented overlap. It was a nifty way to ensure that the tailed beast supplies its host with chakra whenever needed because it will also weaken the seal. However, his dad had left the key with the toads to strengthen the seal, just in case it weakens too much. It was the main reason why her chakra reserves were so vast. But be that as may be, to do some of the niche stuff, one must have at least an adequate level of chakra control. Do you see this? Blue chakra was visible as it surged through his wrist. This is chakra, the energy that is used to perform various techniques. Her blue eyes sparkled with awe, and her mouth was agape. It was likely that she had never seen something so basic at this. That's so cool. Teach me how to do that. She bounced on her feet, punching an imaginary opponent in the air. He had to break her bubble. I will, but first you need to understand what chakra truly is. After watching her interest in the lectures, Naruto had thought that it would be a challenging aspect to teach his sister. But he was pleasantly surprised at the progress. It seemed that she was a practical learner, and books failed to grab her attention for extended durations. He taught her how to channel chakra through her body. And although she couldn't control it very well, she had learned to make her arm glow blue by noon. Did you see that? Did you? Did you? I did it. She jumped up in the air, laughing, and started to run around the training ground, her hands in the air. One step closer to my dream. She finally dropped down, but the smile on her face was still present as she hummed a cheerful tune. His violet eyes narrowed. It was time he showed off some more in front of his sister. He had no idea it would be so entertaining. Here, watch closely. I'll show you something that I've been working on. Really? What's it called? Super Round Ultra Ball of Liquid Death, version 1. A giggle almost escaped his mouth. That was such a cool name. He'd been thinking of it for months, and there was no better title. He waited for her to exclaim how cool it was, but it never came. That's a really dumb name. I think I'll pass. The girl unashamedly picked her nose, looking at her finger with a surprising intensity. It was good that she didn't see his face. Naruto didn't trust himself to control his tears. Is this how it feels to get stabbed in the heart? I wonder. He muttered to himself, crying tears of pain as he looked to the heavens. Aniki, if you keep being so lame, Izumi-chan would end up marrying someone else. If he were drinking water, he'd have most certainly spat it all. Why? Where do you keep getting these weird ideas? See, you're all red in the face. I was right, he most certainly didn't growl. You? Who's been teaching you this stuff? It's that drunk granny, isn't it? Naruto now had another reason to dislike Tsunade. How dare that woman sink her vile claws in his dear little sister? You really need to do something. Because I saw her with this guy the other day. Hard as he tried to stop listening, his ears perked up, but he didn't turn around. There was no way he'd think of her like that. They might have been childhood friends, but thinking about that would make him vomit. Then why wasn't he vomiting? Oh? Why do you think I care who she spends her time with? He really tried to keep the jealousy out of his voice, but it didn't seem to work. I saw him, you know. He was a cute boy. I think you need to up your game. Or else. Natsumi trailed off, giggling. But don't worry. You aren't so bad. So you'll find someone else. Enough. Naruto stood up from his place, an unreadable expression on his face. There were many things that he liked, many things he disliked. But the one thing he hated was losing. Be it in a battle or, he gritted his teeth. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but it was time for war. Naruto put his finger in his mouth and blew a whistle. It was very effective, as two people instantly jumped down from the trees, crouching in front of him. He looked at them, his gaze hardened. Minion 1 and 2, we have our first mission. You have your own gang? Natsumi said, her eyes wide before she finally looked at their faces. What are you two doing here? The two did not answer nor look at her. They only looked at their lord for orders. As expected of Oyabun. You knew we were here. It was kind of hard to miss his constant stalker and her bodyguard. But Naruto didn't say it out loud.